Everyone has been questioning the decisions made by the FIA during the Australian Grand Prix, from fans to team principals and even the drivers. And Ferrari has decided to make it formal and face the F1 governing body. We're looking at what happened, why it happened, and the implications of the actions taken by Ferrari, so stick around and let's get started. To begin with, let's talk about the third standing start of the action-packed Australian Grand Prix. At the front were Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Then the two Spaniards, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. While Verstappen and Hamilton got a clean run out of turn 1, it wasn't the same for the rest of the drivers. Sainz, who was in the inside of the corner, collided with Alonso and caused him to spin around. Both Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly went off track as Logan Sargent rear-ended Nick De Vries further back. As Gasly turned to the track, he collided with teammate Esteban Ocon, who had run out of space and sent both drivers into the wall. This collision caused the race to be red flagged for the third time that day. The deliberations and decisions made by the FIA in the 30-something minute break, which honestly felt like an eternity before the race officially ended, are the reason why Sainz is not happy with the FIA. The team has decided to take up their discontentment and what they call an unfair act by the governing body. Sainz has not had the smoothest race up to that point, right? He started the race in 5th and was up to 4th by the 4th lap, having fought his way past Alonso. After Alex Albon spun on lap 7, the safety car was deployed, and Sainz took advantage of the pit for fresher tires. What was supposed to be a cheap pit stop turned disastrous after the race was red flagged, and consequently Sainz dropped to 11th position. But the Ferrari driver had a very good recovery and was back to 4th when a crash by Kevin Magnussen on lap 54 at 58 brought out the red flags again. After the carnage of the second restart, the FIA decided that the race would end under a safety car. The order from before the restart was instated before that last lap, since the first sector of the lap hadn't been finished before the red flag was waved. After the collision, Sainz had gone up to 3rd, but after the order before was reinstated, he would start and end the final lap in 4th, and there was no overtaking allowed. Such a finish would have gotten him 12 points and brought him closer to 4th place Lewis Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. Things, however, did not turn out that way, as further communications from the FIA bore devastating news. Sainz had been given a 5-second time-limit penalty for his collision with Alonso. When Sainz's race engineer, Ricardo Adami, notified him of the penalty, Sainz was heard sobbing over the radio that the penalty was unacceptable, and he appealed to the stewards to hold off until he had spoken with them in person. "No, it can't be, Ricky. Do I deserve to be out of the points? No. No, tell them it's unacceptable. Tell them it's unacceptable. They need to wait until the race is finished and discuss with me," he said. Well, the stewards didn't wait to talk to him. Sainz crossed the checkered flag in 4th place, but ended up in 12th with no points to take home after the penalty was applied. According to a statement released by the FIA, the stewards, after reviewing all the evidence that they had at the time, concluded that Alonso had significantly been ahead of Sainz at the first corner, and Sainz was wholly to blame for the collision. While it was equivalent to a first-lap incident, Sainz had enough space and could have avoided driving into Alonso. After the race, a very upset Sainz commented this after being asked for his opinion. "Right now, I can't talk. I'm too angry, too disappointed. I can't say anything. I prefer to just go to the stewards, get the penalty away, because I don't think I deserve it, and it's the most unfair penalty that I've seen in my life. I'll first go to the stewards. I just needed to come first to the TV pen. If I don't come here, they put me in another penalty." Sainz's opinion was shared by a number of drivers and fans. Alonso said this on the penalty: "I didn't see the replay properly, but for me, feels too harsh." We all remember the situation in Saudi Arabia when the stewards gave Alonso a penalty after he had already celebrated his 100th podium, and then they later recalled it and literally ripped it away from him. Ferrari's team principal, Frederick Vasseur, thinks that the FIA didn't learn anything from that. He said the stewards were wrong not to have talked to Sainz, in factoring in that the penalty would not have any effect on the podium. The stewards could have waited till after the race to make their decision. It therefore comes as no surprise that the team has decided to lodge a petition for a right of review of the penalty that was handed to Sainz. This action is within the provisions of Article 14 of the FIA's International Sporting Code, which allows a team to request a right of review for up to 14 days after a ruling has been made by the stewards, but only if a significant and relevant new element, which has not been available at the time the disputed decision was made, has been discovered. So what new material is the team presenting to the FIA? Vasseur noted that the stewards had handled the other incidents differently but didn't want to go into great detail about Ferrari's justification for the petition. Here's what he said. We did a petition for a review of the case. We sent it to the FIA. As we were discussing with the FIA, I don't want to discuss any details of this discussion. The only thing is the Gasly/Ocon collision. For sure, we had to also Sargent/De Vries colliding into turn 1, and the reaction of stewards was not the same. The process is that first they will have a look at our petition to see if they can reopen the case, and we'll have a second hearing a bit later with the same stewards for the next meeting about the decision itself. What we can expect is at least to have an open discussion with them, also for the good of the sport, to avoid these kind of decisions when you have 3 cases on the same corner and not the same decision. There were 2 other collisions at the restart. The first involved Sargent and De Vries, and the second was between Gasly and Ocon. These 2 incidents were more fatal than the Sainz and Alonso collision, as they ended with all 4 drivers retiring from the race. However, they were ruled as racing incidents and no penalties were handed. Regarding the timing of a potential review, Vasseur said, it could be at the next race in Baku or it could be before, but we prefer to do it before. We have up to 14 days to do the petition, the request for review, then it's up for them to decide. They have to do it in a short period, but it's true for once that we have 4 weeks between the 2 races in Australia and Azerbaijan, and it's a bit more flexible. We have our argumentation, for sure, and I will keep the argumentation for the FIA as a first step. For sure, we're expecting a review of the situation because it's a petition for a review. We're not going there to get the same decision. It might seem like futile work attempting to change an already made decision, but it is necessary, especially after all the questions that have been raised over how the FIA handled the incidents on track. Most of the drivers felt that the red flags were unnecessary and they just disrupted the flow of the race. The FIA could have prevented that carnage after the 3rd start if it had made better decisions, and this prompted criticism from the drivers who believe that the FIA is putting entertainment before sport. The petition by Ferrari has been submitted to the FIA, which will now decide whether or not Ferrari's arguments are, well, valid. If successful, this appeal could potentially lead to a reversal of Sainz's penalty and an increase in points for Ferrari in the championship standings. Whatever the outcome, it's sure to be a highly anticipated result. Ferrari's argument is significant not only for the current season, but also for long-term ramifications. This situation has highlighted the need for race stewards to be held accountable for their decisions, and the final outcome is going to be critical in determining how future cases are handled and, in particular, how consistent the FIA is with dealing with these incidents on the track. Ferrari's hoping that their appeal will be successful and that the stewards will be persuaded to reverse their original decision. So, what do you think, my friends? Was the penalty deserved? Will it be reversed? Or maybe it can be applied in Baku? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.